Cian Tracey, the Irish Independent, is with us this morning. Good morning to you.
Sure.
Got to get to Fiona Steed in just a minute as well. The fact that the game is in Bordeaux and that it is Paris who are playing is great, because it means that none of the Racing fans are, well, a small pocket of them will travel to Bordeaux, but it could actually be one of those famous Munster occasions where the entire stadium is red. Yeah,
I think Munster fans obviously have a name for finding tickets some way possible. I think you could see it straight after the game on Twitter. Aer Lingus had put up, we're putting on extra flights, and people are demanding why aren't they going from Cork, why aren't they going from Shannon? So yeah, they're going to get their hands on the tickets anyway. I think we've seen it over the years, haven't we? And Munster have been to Bordeaux before as well, so I'd expect more of the same. Yeah, I think we can get Fiona Steeds. Now, Fiona, I'd say as part of your memory of supporting Munster down through the years, there are some famous occasions. Am I right in saying that one of the first big wins was in Bordeaux as far back as 2000?
That's it, yeah, it was indeed. And I was talking to John about it last night. He actually fell over the line for a try, I think, one of his rare ones. So, yeah, I mean, I wasn't at that. That was slightly before we hooked up, for want of a better word. But yeah, Bordeaux has happy memories. So it's strange that, I don't know if you've covered it, why Racing do we know why they're taking it all the way down there?
So they don't get to pick. I think it's just, you might know the ins and outs.
Neutral venue,
Yeah.
Which I guess that's why Scarlets are up in arms that Leinster get to play at the Aviva,
Yeah, Scarlets are up in arms about a lot of stuff. Their social media, their fan social media has been pretty interesting. But I was just saying there before you come on that actually it's great for Munster, because you could easily see this being at least 50-50 and probably 70-30 Munster fans by the time kickoff comes.
Oh, absolutely. I think so. And I think they'll have no problem getting, getting tickets. I mean, down through the years, like, we always managed to get them wherever. And I mean, the sense that I got after, Saturday it was like, such a encouraging atmosphere, back to a bit of nostalgia, but, with this new young breed of guys that are playing, which is fantastic. But that's why I think as well, like, I know you're saying they didn't get to pick, but surely they could have picked Parc de France or Stade de France, in Paris, and kept it there. But then maybe they'd be worried that more Munster people would get out, and get over, easier to get to Paris,
It's funny, talking to both of you separately before about what we were going to talk about, you both picked the centre partnerships as something that we should look about. You in particular have written about them today. And the difference in terms of experience and also in size. They were giving up a significant amount of heft, but the Munster partnership in the centre was sensational. Yeah, I mean, I have a piece in the paper about it today. Of all the centres that they could have picked, if everyone was fit, they're the smallest and the lightest, probably going up against two of the biggest you're ever likely to face in World Rugby. And yeah, I mean, I think Rory Scannell is just such an underrated player. Last week there was doubts over several Munster players, but I think the one that everyone was really concerned about was Scannell, particularly because Jaco Taude and Chris Farrell are out injured, but also because I think Roy Scannell has a habit of making other players look good. I think Sam Arnold fed off that the other day. They're incredible. They're understanding, they're backing up of each other. I mean, one would go low, one would chop low, one would chop high in the tackle. They were covering each other if one messed up. And I think the one time I was highlighting the paper today that they did get disconnected, Toulon punished them, which just goes to show that was the only time they were actually able to score a try, and it was the one time that the two lads got disconnected. So yeah, I thought they were outstanding. I think Sam Arnold has been in Carton House for the last few weeks. I know he didn't play for Ireland, but I mean, just being in that environment can only have been a good thing, and I would fully probably expect him to get caps in summer tour now. Fiona, what impressed you about them?
Well, what I love about Scannell really is, like, he is the second 5'8". His distribution as well, the few limited opportunities, but he was on the ball even, and I haven't done the stats, but as often as Keatley, he just has such a lovely pass, and he really does bring other players into play. And I think if Ireland ever wanted to go down that route of a different type of inside centre, shall we say, then Scannell would be the man. If they ever wanted to change up their game plan and play it a little bit, have a second distributor, which he was fantastic about it. And then, like, when I was talking to Tommy last night, just the matchup, there's no way, like, people would even say they shouldn't have been on the same pitch as Nano and Bastero in terms of physical size, but also experience, honours that the other two guys have. The wages that they're on, I would hesitate to guess the difference in wages between our two centres in Munster and the two lads in Toulon. But it counts for nothing once you get on the pitch and once you're in Thomond Park and have that, that huge sense. And it'll just have done them so much good. And like Cian was saying, defensively is probably where they were at it, apart from the odd occasion. They were fantastic. They kept their spacing really well. They were so aggressive as well in the tackle, and the timing of when to make the hit or whether to shadow out so that Witten wasn't exposed on the wing, apart from, as I say, that one time or so. So they were just great and totally, I suppose, unsung perhaps outside the province, but like they've been working away really well down here. We sort of know what they're all about,
What's your take on that 10-12 channel, Fiona, and how they might interact with Ian Keatley? Because on a very obvious level, you've got that left boot from Rory Scannell, which worked so effectively on Saturday as well.
Yeah, no, I really think it's a really nice combination, and it takes the pressure off Keatley. And he's playing really, really well. But again, understated. But he distributed a lot to Scannell, who then made the decision. Possibly didn't kick as much as he could do in other games. But they just, I suppose, possession stats. If we look at the first, 19 minutes, we were sitting there watching it, going, God, if they hold out here, they just kept going with in terms of defence and soaked up the pressure, and then Toulon didn't really seem to have another option for all the skill set that they have. They went back to that, oh God, we'll try a drop goal or we'll try a kick through, whereas you feel that Munster, with more time on the ball, have more intelligence in terms of that Scannell would be able to open up defences, and I think he would be there regardless in that sort of role as to whether Tote was there or he would probably play outside him. I think he's just such an underrated outside of the province player, but he just offers so much. Like, his pass off his left hand is so sweet as well. It's just lovely.
Scannell's 24, Sam Arnold's 22 next week. It's a brilliant thing to be able to have. So you've got Tarte and Chris Farrell injured, and everybody's like, ooh, what's going to happen next? But actually, the strength and depth that they have is fairly sensational. And Sam Arnold's story, grows up in England. Harlequins want him, but they want him as a scrum half. He wants to play centre. Goes to Ulster. His ma's from Wexford, and I think he's got a grandparent from Bear Island as well. So there's another Wexford Bear Island connection there. It's brilliant that we're getting players like this to come through and have this experience, and then to look up at the big screen and go, that's man Nanu on the bench, and he's just gone off because we've just killed him.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then they bring on Fekitoa, who's no slouch either, a former All Black. But yeah, Sam Arnold is very interesting. I remember watching him for the Ireland under-20s, and he was outstanding. His problem was that he was really hampered by injuries up in Ulster. Ulster obviously had a lot of centres. They cut their losses and they decided to offload him. Now, if you look at the Ulster situation now, they're probably thinking, why did we leave this guy go? But I think anyone who has seen Arnold from a young age knew that he was capable of this. I don't think that this is an overnight thing, And again, I go back to, there's a reason why Joe Schmidt has had him in Carton House. He's been on the radar for quite a while, and I think he's always promised to deliver a performance like that, and that was the biggest game of his career, and he certainly didn't disappoint.
Is he definitely a 13? Is that his or is he?
He can play 12 too. I think Scannell is the first choice 12. I think Fiona's right. I think Scannell played a lot of rugby when he was younger at out half, and that's why you're seeing his distribution game. He comes in and he plays first receiver. That was something we were talking about a lot in November in the Six Nations with Ireland. Giving Johnny Sexton another option. Scannell does that with Munster, and he takes a lot of the pressure off Keatley when he can step in there. And then you have the left foot as well. So they complement each other quite well. And like I said, that's not to mention the two international centres that they're missing.
Yeah.
Fiona, just on Thomond Park and how big a loss that'll be, just not having the home crowd going to Bordeaux, obviously. Obviously they play a huge part, and I wasn't at the game on Saturday, but everybody who was there says that this was an unbelievably special atmosphere on Saturday. At the same time though, and without doing a disservice to the crowd, does it do a disservice to the team when we talk about Thomond Park as a special place all the time? Because let's not forget that Toulon showed up. They had more possession, they had more territory, they gave away less penalties than Munster. It wasn't a bad performance by any stretch of the imagination, and say if you take Conor Murray's try even, it was a moment of coolness, a moment of unbelievably quick thinking, and we seem to associate Munster at Thomond Park with heat of the moment, really energised, really caught up in the emotion of it all, whereas you have this moment of genius which can only come from a very cool mind. So Like, are you worried leaving Thomond Park at all as a result of those reasons I've outlined at all?
No, not at all. I think we've gone beyond, the 10 years ago where, God, we had to have the crowd and we had to have, Thomond Park. And it was proven even back then that, we could travel. And this Munster team, they're, all of the lads now have, you've met the age ranges there, 22, 24, but they've come up through the system. Peter O'Mahony has come through the Munster system, the academy, the under-20s, all of that. And they understand, and they've been professionals all of their lives, if you know what I mean, all of their rugby lives. So they're going to be clear, clinical. But it's just that uniqueness between the fans. I mean, there was a snapshot. I mean, we didn't go in now because we prefer to watch it in detail at home. And there was a snapshot 1 minute of this lady, white-haired, roaring on. And in the next minute, you had the 6-year-old boy whose face went from agony to ecstasy as the camera poured on it. And that's just lovely, and it's just part of it. But that's not to say that it's not in Leinster, and I think it would do a disservice to fans around the country who have grown up on the back of, Munster being successful and then Leinster being successful, Connacht as well. And so that the fans are there. I don't think going to Bordeaux will be an issue. I think, like we touched on at the start, like are the Racing fans going to move out of Paris? And Munster long for these special days where they get to do the European journeys. Goodness me, that there's been so many of them, but they haven't. A semi-final in the south of France, like. Who cares? Let's go for it.
Yeah.
and let's crack on.
Yeah, a bit of a wine tasting tour. Bordeaux's a nice place. Jack O'Donoghue was playing as a flanker, and Jack O'Donoghue is one of those players who you thought 3 or 4 years ago was going to be an absolute superstar and was probably going to be nailed on much sooner than this. For whatever reason, severe level of competition in the back row, various injuries, he hasn't quite hit the point where he's a first name on the team sheet starter. But a few more performances like Saturday and all of a sudden you're like, come on, get him in the team.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think there's any doubt about his quality. I think his issue has been consistency. Like you said, he's been shipped in and out of the team. He's had a couple of injuries, but I think it's those weeks where no one's watching, when it's against Zebra or something. They're the games that he needs to not drop his level of performances, and I think at times he'd be the first to admit that he hasn't quite kept up that level. I mean, I think you're right, he was outstanding. Out of position, I mean, he's much more comfortable as a 6 or an 8, but again, against a huge back row, he dominated the breakdown, he dominated the collisions. But yeah, he needs to find a consistency, I think, over a prolonged period.
And is there any possibility he's actually a 7, that you find this out as a 24-year-old? All the time my game is actually perfectly suited now to this.
He could be, but I think if Tommy O'Donnell and Chris Cleat are fit, I think he's probably third choice.
They're both gone for the rest of the year, though. Yeah. So
well, it's needs must now. The only recognised 7 they have is Conor Oliver, and he played for the A's last week. So I don't see him playing in a Champions Cup semi-final now. He's going on tour to South Africa with them. It'll be interesting to see how he gets on over the next 2 weeks. But Robin Copeland obviously came in as well, but he's leaving at the end of the season, so I think they're much better off hedging their bets with Jack O'Donoghue because he's their guy. He's going to be there for the long period of time. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see. It's definitely his jersey to lose, and you'd expect him to start again if form stays the same.
Just from the way yourself and Fiona are chatting there, in terms of the likes of Jack O'Donoghue, in terms of the age profile of this team and the age profile of the Leinster team, I think it's kind of easy to forget that these guys were kids watching the Munster and Leinster teams arrive and dominate Europe from whatever 2006 onwards. So there's a potential that this becomes the best year in the history of Irish professional rugby. We've obviously had the Grand Slam. If it's a Leinster-Munster final, I think it is the best year in the history, the best season in the history of Irish professional rugby, no?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're right. People do forget that this is a young Munster team as well. I guess Leinster get a lot of the plaudits because their guys are making inroads in the international stage. But I mean, behind them, there's Munster guys chomping at the bit. I thought Rory Scanlon was unbelievably unlucky not to play in the Six Nations, especially with Ireland's injury problems in the centre. Jack O'Donoghue probably less so for the reasons that I spoke about, the consistency. But yeah, you're right. Scarlet's coming back to Dublin. Leinster looking for revenge. I mean, I think Munster will unquestionably outnumber in terms of supporters in Bordeaux. And in a strange way, I think it's a good thing that they've played Racing already this season. I think if they were playing Toulon in the semi-final there, it's a little bit more daunting because you're going into the unknown a bit more. They pushed Racing very close in their own backyard. They actually probably should have won that game, but their discipline was really, really poor in Paris that day. So yeah, I don't think Munster have anything to fear, and ironically so, if it was a different French team, I think that would be an altogether different proposition.
Definitely. I think one, like, just from that game in Paris, I think Conor Murray having the backing of his own boot a little bit. I mean, he was very close with a couple of long-range efforts that day in the EU arena, and I think that's one little facet that could become a key part of that semi-final anyway when they go to Bordeaux.
Yeah, and we should definitely talk about Donnacha Ryan. I mean, at the time it seemed like it was a really bad decision to let him go, but it looked like maybe that was just a lifestyle choice, that he wanted to go and get out of his comfort zone. But it's not great that he has such an intimate knowledge of exactly what Munster are going to throw in terms of the line out and in terms of their planning and defence and all the rest of the stuff. It's a real pity that he is such a superstar at the moment for wrestling.
Oh, look, he's doing great, isn't he? And I suppose he's from the same neck of the woods as myself, and I'm delighted for him. You know, you take a chance in your career, and it's worked out really well. I mean, he had neck surgery and everything, you know, before the start of the season. So fair play to him, you know. But it is and it isn't. I mean, I think Van Gran has come in. He's changed things a little bit. He's tweaked things a little bit. And the other side of it is they also know Ryan really well, and they know his little signs when he's about to jump and about to do and different things. And like the level of analysis these days is so much that really it's not going to come down to one player knowing sort of the inside secrets, and because they know that he'll know, they'll change things up accordingly. So I don't see it. I'm delighted for Donnacha. I don't see it as being key. I think he'll have an influence because of the type of player that he is. I mean, I think Peter O'Mahony at line-out time defensively at the weekend was just fantastic, as he has been for Ireland as well. And, you know, often unseen, that piece of his work. So I think that'll be key as well going forward. And just on Jack O'Donoghue, I actually think he could be a 7 in 8's clothing, to be honest. I think he could end up being there. And if Cleete hadn't come in, I mean, you know, he's just been phenomenal, really. And that's where you look at bringing players in, young lads, you know, homegrown, sort of maybe getting pushed down the pecking order, but Jack O'Donoghue has come back stronger for us and was immense. And Conor Oliver, you know, he's been really good as well when played, but he's had a lot of injuries. He's just sort of growing into his body and his frame at the moment, and I mean, taking the step up from under 20s over the last few years, that you know, he's just had a few injuries around the shoulder area and stuff, so I expect him to come back. He's a real nugget over the ball, you know, so I think there is the strength and depth, and it's great. And like you've said there, it's a golden era, and I can see Irish provinces winning everything this year, you know, in terms of like there'll be three cups or medals in the country by the end of the year, but I don't know who. I won't nail my colours to the mast yet as to who I think.
We should talk about Andrew Conway and his moment of skill to win the game at the end. A lot of people let that ball go out and they go, you know, but Conway decided to back himself. And, you know, you think about the year that he's had where it looked like he was very close to being at least in the matchday squad, if not starting for Ireland. And then injury robbed him of a place in the Grand Slam. And then it looks like injury might even rob him of a place in that game. And then just to produce that was sensational.
It was absolutely sensational. I mean, a lot of people have done a lot of analysis on that try, and just something I picked up, you know, yesterday was that the look that he gave when the ball was in flight as to where the touchline was, you know, and then knew exactly where he was, but then didn't take his eye off the ball, managed to, you know, was there an inch in it or a centimetre? Absolutely phenomenal. And again, like, for me, with the Munster backline, it's the sum of their parts, but the collective then is just so much better than each individual on paper. You know, if you look at, I suppose Stockdale was so fantastic for Ireland. I still wouldn't have given him Six Nations Player of the Year though, but there we go, he scored some excellent tries, and like that could have possibly been Conway, but it's just they play so well together, and they're sort of underrated again outside the province, all across the back line, but yet they perform for each other. And then Conway, that was just, it was sublime, like, and he just is, he's rapid, like he's so quick, but he just had such all-round footballing sense. And another person, I suppose with Sam Arnold as well, you look at people finding a new province and making it their home, don't you? And like Conway is someone who's really grown in Munster, you know, and become very much part of the fabric there.
Yeah, this was Conway's reputation as a kid. It was like he could do this. He was the Jordan Larmour of his time without actually making it to the provincial level and doing it at that level. But here we're starting to see he has that skill set and all the rest of the stuff that he's added during his time at Munster.
Yeah, absolutely. I think after one of the games in November, he was very honest. He came out and spoke to us and he said that he almost just expected it to happen when he came out of school, that he fell into the trap when schools rugby was so easy for him. You know, he was scoring tries like that all the time, even there's clips of him from the Junior Cup final scoring 2 crackers. But yeah, I think you fall into that trap, a false sense of security that you don't have to work at the small things, and he admitted that was the case, and he has a much more holistic approach to how he approaches the game now. And you know, he's focusing on the little things. He's probably focusing on things like that, you know, catching the ball and things like that he just wasn't doing. And he's reaping the rewards for that now. Again, he's another one who's benefited hugely from being in the Ireland camp. I mean, judging on his form from November, I don't think there's any question he would have been in the match day squad if he'd been fit. But yeah, he's come down to Munster and he's rebuilt his career, and Munster are reaping the benefits for that now as well.
The Zebo went off injured. Do we know the nature or exactly?
I think he's fine because he's gone to South Africa with the squad, so I don't think there's any way they'd bring him. They wouldn't need to bring him, so yeah. I expect he's absolutely fine. Yeah.
Okay. Any other bumps and bruises from that? That's in terms of
nothing that came out. I mean, Munster confirmed that Tommy O'Donnell was out for the season. That was the biggest one, really. But yeah, considering the guys they were playing against, they probably got lucky there.
Just in terms of the Conway try, like I've watched it about 150 times at this stage. It's absolutely sensational. But there is kind of an element of maybe Toulon looking at Andrew Conway running in from the wing. They're like, this guy's going to do nothing. I mean, Andrew Conway's not a Grand Slam winner. Probably unaware of the fact that he was injured for the Six Nations. And it's like, we've never even heard of this guy. I mean, he's not going to do this. And the next thing, the ball's dotted down and they've lost the game. And I wonder, is there an element of that kind of complacency that could... I don't want to call it complacent because it was a moment of genius from Andrew Conway. But if Munster are looking at Racing and they're like, we've still got a load of aces up our sleeve that Racing don't even know about. Well,
yeah, if you look at Tui Sova there, the guy who was chasing him, can you imagine an Irish player doing that? Like, he just would have been hauled off. That guy is so good going forward, but defensively he's a liability. And I mean, we saw something similar in the pool stages where he just didn't chase his man at all. It was similar there, but I guess Munster probably had targeted something like that. Not that they had planned to score a try like that, but they know that guy is a defensive liability, and maybe there is an element of that. Yeah, he's not a Grand Slam winner. Like, they're probably going, who is Sam Arnold, who's Rory Scallon, Bassero and Nanu with Fekitoa to come off, and maybe they did underestimate them. And I think beating Claremont, I think it was 49-0 the previous week, probably played into Munster's hands a little bit, because you know, they came out last week and it was the backs against the wall. It was exactly the kind of stuff that Munster feed off when the big teams are coming to Limerick. But yeah, they probably underestimated them a little bit, and that's just Munster's bread and butter, isn't it? A French team coming to town and underestimating how good that they can be.
What about Leinster's performance? This was a game where we thought Saracens were coming back to the level that was the best in Europe. They literally going for a level of dominance that one other team has ever reached in European rugby history, and they'd recovered from an early season blip. They had most of their best players available to them, and while there was some tension in the second half, there was never a point where Leinster looked in any significant danger. No,
I mean, I think we have to give Leinster their credit. They were incredible. It was a brilliant performance, but I was really disappointed with Saracens. I think you're right. We were really expecting, especially what happened in Twickenham, we were expecting a backlash because there's so many similar guys playing. But I think we're probably seeing two clubs in different terms of their stages of development. Leinster are only going one way. We saw the story in the paper today that Saracens,
they're up for sale.
Yeah, I mean, that can't help. I mean, those South African buyers have been pumping money into them for the last 10 years, which has been what their success has been predicated on. But yeah, Leinster were awesome. They dominated the collisions, and when you consider that that's what Saracens built their two successes off over the last 2 years, Leinster were awesome. Dan Levy just went to another level again. Another guy who, from an early age, everyone knew he was capable of this. I wouldn't be writing Saracens off just yet, but I mean, they look tired. It's very similar to England. I thought the similarities between the game were very, very striking. Having been over at Twickenham, you never felt Ireland were going to lose. Having been at the Aviva the other day, you never felt Leinster were going to lose, despite having the likes of Itoje, Farrell, guys that can change a game in an instant. But Leinster just strangled them and frustrated them, and it was a seriously good performance.
Yeah, James Ryan still hasn't lost a professional game of rugby, Fiona. It's one of those stats that, until he loses a game, I'd nearly put him out for the last 2 minutes of a game that they're losing in the Pro 14, just so it's like, yeah, no, that's finished. We can stop talking about it.
Oh, look, no, why would you? I mean, I think, and again, it's back to like, he's been earmarked for this, way before, under 20s, I say Michael's even before that, and like fair play, and let him never lose. Well, apart from if Leinster are playing Munster in any of the 2 finals that are left, I have to say, he can lose one of those, but it's just great. And I mean, just touching on that, I think Saracens in England, they really relied on Billy Vunipola, for that go forward ball and for that grunt up front, and they haven't been able to, either team hasn't been able to replace that, and they don't have sort of, okay, what are we going to do now? And I never had any fear that Leinster were going to lose at the weekend. But like Ryan, I was just looking at some of his stats there. 17 tackles, for a second row, even tackled more than Dan Levy. Like 21, still not at the height of his powers. I'd give him another few years before he'll hit that. And from an Irish point, it's great, and it's great for Leinster. And like Dan Levy has been outstanding. I mean, when they played Munster down at Christmas in Thomond Park, like he came away with man of the match, I think, that day. And he's just growing and has had a absolutely phenomenal last 4 or 5 months of the of the year. And you even look at is he an open side, and would he be in there if Van der Fleer wasn't injured? And but he's just doing he's doing fantastically well.
Yeah, is Sean O'Brien a 6 now? Is that like if he comes back, it's like, sorry, we've got 2 7s there, lads?
I think Sean O'Brien probably goes to 8, actually. Rhys Ruddock was the form forward, arguably, in Ireland before he got injured. He was incredible, and I think it's easy to forget that because so much has happened since he's been out. But I think if everyone's fit, I think it's Rhys Ruddock at 6, I think Dan Levy at 7 and Sean O'Brien at 8, which is incredible to think when you look at Jack Conan. Max Deegan is coming through and has the capability to overtake all these guys, super talent, and Josh Van der Fleer, of course, who everyone knows how good he is, but it's an embarrassment of riches, really, isn't it? Yeah,
I mean, I thought Jordy Murphy was brilliant at the weekend. You're like, oh, he could, I mean, if he's got, I don't know what he's going to Ulster as, but you could definitely see him playing 8 for Ulster and that being his future.
Yeah, and I wonder, will Leinster come to regret leaving Jordy Murphy go? I mean, it's probably more down to Joe Schmidt and Jordy Murphy making a decision together, because let's face it, the reason he's going is to enhance his chances of playing at the World Cup. But yeah, that guy plays 6, 7 and 8 and is a 7, 8 out of 10 every time, never lets you down. And that versatility, I don't think you can take that for granted. And I wonder, like, next season, if Leinster have a couple of injuries, will they live to regret leaving?
Yeah, no doubt. There was a bang of Rocky Elton off. Maybe it was just the way the hair was flowing in the wind there at various stages. But it was funny too in the post-match that Dan Levy was taken down a peg or two by Johnny Sexton. Was like, yeah, a bit of the Rocky Elton's about him. Doesn't really train during the week. Yeah,
what was he talking about? What was it you were referring to this week?
Yeah, I don't know. I think Dan Levy has this, let's say, super confident attitude, and I think Johnny's probably, like you said, trying to take him down a peg or two, because, like Fiona had said, everything is going so well for him, but it's not always going to be like this, and nothing phases him, which is great on the pitch. But I guess they're the guys who are seeing what's going on behind the scenes, and they want to see him, not worried about what's coming, but maybe not taken for granted. And I guess there's a fine line between being confident and complacent.
Well, that's the thing. Like, so at least he was part of the team that last year had the semi-final. Whatever, it was at that stage. I felt like this is a team in development, and so losing semi-final like that, not as big a deal. But ultimately, you think that for Sexton and for Carney and for the older players, for Easton Sewa, losing last year's semi-final was like a massive thing. But for the younger lads, we'll be semi-finals all the time.
Yeah, that's a great point. Easton Sewa and Johnny Sexton both came out after last season, were very public in saying that these guys need to go away and have a long, hard summer and look at themselves. Now, obviously, some of them went on the Irish tour, which would have helped them too. But yeah, it was interesting to note that they were publicly saying, I don't know, was it complacency? But, there's an element of, oh yeah, this is going to happen all the time. And I guess that's something that's going to have to be fed into Ireland as well, that, winning a Grand Slam, like you mentioned, James Ryan has never lost a professional game, but there's lots of these Leinster players, including Dan Levy, who's never lost a game for Ireland. So, I mean, it's not always going to be like this. They've just coming around at a good time, and there's a lot of them. But
and how you respond to defeat is actually far more important than never losing, because you're definitely going to lose one. One last point about this, Issa, there was some mention in the commentary at the weekend about potentially him retiring at the end of the year, and given the quality of play that he has at the moment, and also how busy next year is going to be generally for Leinster and Ireland, you kind of think, oh no, I mean, he looks like he's got another 3 or 4 years left.
Yeah, I think his value to the team is on and off the pitch, and it's the subtleties of, just directing people, organising, whether it's back three defence or, if he steps into, first, second receiver channel. He's really, really good, and he's just, I don't think we on the outside actually get to appreciate all of the other stuff that he does, around training and around the camp, because he's the ultimate professional. I mean, he made a really good line break, at the weekend as well. So, yeah, but then, what age is he? Is he up again?
35, I think. 35,
yeah. So, and, people want to go out on top as well, and it'll be a great way for him to finish. And yeah, I mean, there's definitely a bit more left in him. But, the other side of things is like Jordan Larmour's looking, going, well, look, I'd be quite happy if he went, wouldn't he? Do you know the way that people, that it's all very well and good, but it's like there's a lot more talent, coming through as well. So, but I think he's been great. Both stints, he's been great for Leinster. He's
36 in July. I think I mentioned Rocky, and all the Leinster fans always think, he's the most important foreign import because he's the one that gets them over the line. But actually, Isan Asiwa is the most important and best non-Irish player that Leinster have ever had.
Yeah, I mean, you just look at. I think I'm right in saying he's played in every position in the backs for Leinster over his career. But Leinster are very clever in how they manage him. Like they don't play him every week. Like I think it'd been 6 weeks or something since he'd played.
Right.
So they're very clever in how they manage him. I think he's, without using a cliche, he's a model pro. I mean, even the fact that he took that break, it just goes to show that it can work. And obviously, he's more comfortable in the back three in the wing, but he played 12 and he did get caught out a couple of times on Sunday. But he's just a guy who, if you need a hole filled, he's going to do it, and he's going to be an 8 out of 10. Like so, yeah, it'll be interesting to see if Leinster. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he stays on, or at least if they try and convince him to stay on, because that effect that he has on the younger guys like Jordan Larmour, even though he, like Fiona said, might prefer if he sails off into the sunset, but he still adds huge value around the setup.
Yeah.
It's happened 3 times before when Leinster and Munster have been on opposite sides of the draws and have made the semi-finals, 03, 010, and of course last year. And on all 3 occasions, neither of the teams actually made it to the final. That is not going to happen this year, is it?
Well, yeah, Munster were just so poor in their semi-final last year. I just can't see them being as poor. I think it's interesting that they're going to South Africa for the next 2 weeks. They're looking at the positives of that, getting out of the bubble. But it's not, like, I don't think it's ideal to be going halfway across the world. I mean, you look on the flip side, Leinster are playing the 2 Italian teams. Now, they can obviously rest their big guys. Munster have brought all 23 guys who were in their squad for the game against Toulon, which is interesting. Now, I don't think we'll see the likes of Conor Murray and CJ Stander playing both games, but CJ Stander is playing, they've moved the game this weekend to his hometown in George. So he's absolutely nailed on to be playing. Whereas if that's an ordinary, we'll say, home game against Zebra, like I don't think you're going to see CJ Stander playing. So they've got to be careful over the next couple of weeks how they manage their resources. Of course, it'll be great to get away for the break. And Leinster, yeah, again, talk about not making the same mistakes that they did last year. I think, like I mentioned there, those younger players realise now what it takes to win at this level, and they're still hurting having lost against Claremont in that semi-final. So yeah, I can't really see both of them making the same mistakes, but a lot depends on the next 2 weeks and how, in terms of the injuries and things like that.
All right, we've got to leave it there. Fiona, thanks very much for joining us this morning. Cian, thanks for coming to the studio as well.
Hey, hope you enjoyed that latest offering from Off the Ball. If you want to subscribe, and you should, check out just up here. All our latest stuff is just down here. Generally, knock yourself out.